First, you want to start off with a really hot pan and add about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half of olive oil and then some sliced onions. Now, depending on how much collard greens you have, it's going to determine if you want to add more onions and more olive oil. I didn't have a lot of collard greens that I was able to get from the 4 bunches that I bought, so this was all the olive oil and the onions that I needed. I added black pepper. I love a peppery, spicy collard green, so as you can see, I added a lot of black pepper and then some kosher salt and just gave that all a good stir. Now with this, what we're doing, because there's not any meat in this, again, you want to make sure you're bringing a certain type of unctuousness to the flavor of your greens. By doing that, first we're going to cook our collard greens till they get color, and then we're going to add in our spices. We're starting off with garlic powder, then I'm doing onion powder, and that was about a teaspoon, half a teaspoon of each. I added water just because I want to make sure those spices did not burn while I'm waiting to add in my other spices. Next, we got cayenne pepper. You're going to add as much as you think you're able to handle when it comes to that. Next, I have thyme, and I added in about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of thyme as well. What you want to do is emulate the flavor of smoked meat and use the same spices that is used when they are smoking meats. So next, I'm adding Ancho chili powder. It's going to give a great smokiness to your greens, and that's about a teaspoon. And then I have smoked Spanish paprika. I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of that as well. Again, it's bringing smokiness, it's bringing the flavor that you need in order to have a great pot of vegan collard greens. Get it all a good stir that you just mixed in. And what you want to do is bloom your spices. So we actually want this to cook with the onions for a little bit. Next, I added in about 2 cloves of garlic. You just get it all a good stir as well. And next, we're going to add in the collards. My collards were washed. Always make sure if you are using fresh collard greens that you have to pick, that you are washing your greens to make sure you get any bugs and dirt off of them. Make sure you give your pot a real good stir to get any brown bits from the bottom of that pan. Next, I'm going to add in some miso and vegetable broth. And those 2 things are just going to give you some extra great flavor, extra umami to your collard greens. I'm going to use this whole container of vegetable broth. And keep in mind, it's not enough to completely cover the greens so they can cook properly. So I'm also going to add some water. Next is going to be the miso. With this, you do not need much. So please make sure you are adding it sparingly. No, it looks a little weird, but it does give great flavor. And I probably used about a teaspoon of miso to those greens. Once you get that miso in with that broth, go ahead and give that pot a really good stir to make sure you get everything incorporated very well. And then this is me adding my water to make sure my greens have enough liquid to cook in. Now, greens, just like beans, if you're not making soup, you do not want to overwater your pot. So make sure you're adding enough water as to where you're just covering just the top of those greens, just barely. Put a lid on it, and you actually want to tilt the lid. This is about 1.5 hours into cooking, and we want to now taste and see where our flavors are at. Now to my greens, this is my secret weapon. I love to add leftover pickled jalapeno juice. This is from some jalapenos that I actually made myself, and the recipe is water, vinegar, coriander seeds, salt, black peppercorns, garlic, and sliced onions. absolutely delicious. And I add this again to give extra flavor and also to give spice, because I love spicy food. You can either omit this and also add as much juice as you like. I would say make sure you add this juice. Giving it a taste, seeing what the seasoning is at after that. And I'm going to add some more salt because it needs it. And also some black pepper. Going heavy again on the black pepper because I just love that peppery taste. Also going to add some more garlic powder as well. Give everything a good stir. Taste. And it's good. So you're just going to put that lid back on and let it continue to cook for about another hour. Could be another hour and 15 minutes. You want to cook greens for about 2.5, maybe 3 hours. And this is what it's looking like. Look at it. Just look at it. Beautiful, flavorful, vegan.